In today's session, we're going to take a look at styling the FileWave Kiosk app so that it looks like your organization is the one that developed it. Take a look at styling the kiosk. Certainly you've probably used the kiosk on your iOS devices. You go into that web clip for the kiosk, and any apps that you've published or profiles that you've published for kiosk delivery will show there. Today we're going to take a look at styling that a little bit, which is a new feature in 12.2 that allows you to style that and brand it, make it look like your organization developed it. So we're going to take a look at doing that. The first thing we need to do is actually do a little bit of front-end development here, which is really web development. So we're going to do a little crash course here and kind of how you can work with some front-end styles and see what things you might want to do. So I'm going to give you a few examples. Now, of course, we're not supporting editing CSS or anything, but we're giving you the framework to being able to do it, and a little bit of a crash course here so that you can take a look. So the first thing we need to do is get the UDID of a particular iPad so that we can look at what the kiosk looks like in our own browser here. Now, I happen to be doing this on a Mac, but a PC would work just as well. So I'm going to go into client info here, look at device details, and I need to steal this UDID of a device. It doesn't matter which one, just an active device. So I'm going to copy that. Better if we have something actually assigned to it for kiosk delivery. Now we're going to hop over to the browser. Now in my browser, I'm going to go to my FileWave server, which is 192.168.1.100:20.443 if it's the default port, /iOS/recommended_apps/ and then I'm going to paste in the UDID of the device that I kind of stole from my FileWave admin there and hit enter. When I do, that's going to give me a look at the kiosk, what I would see on the device itself. And you can see here that this one is unstyled. This is how it comes out of the box, with blue for the categories, blue for the icons, no background colors, etc. No logo, any of that. So we're going to take a look at doing some of this and how we can modify it. So a couple of things we need as precursors. One, we need a file that specifically needs to be called style_custom.css, and CSS is a cascading style sheet, and we're really just going to put some override values in this, but it must be named style_custom.css. And if we want to use a logo, then that logo needs to be in the same directory called logo.png. So that's a portable network graphic file, so you need that as well, and you might need to play with the sizing of that a little bit. On our FileWave server, we're going to go in to the server login, right? And we need to create a directory to put this style sheet in. So that is in /usr/local/Django/static, I believe it is, and then kiosk. Yeah. All right. So I'll do a pwd there so you can see the path. Right, that's where we want to be. And if we do a directory in here, an ls-la, you can see there's several files or folders here, CSS, etc. We're going to create a new one, so we're going to make a directory called custom, and it needs to be called custom. So basically, the website, the kiosk app, is hard-coded to look in this custom folder. If you put a file called style_custom.css in that location, then it will read that file. So we're going to change directory into there, and we're going to notice right now that it's empty. So we're going to build our files, we're going to copy our logo up here, copy our CSS up here, and then we should be good to go on the styling. Now the thing is with styling, I happen to be working in Chrome here, but any browser will do. Most of them come with the ability to do these types of things, although the interface will be slightly different. So let's look at doing a few things. Maybe we'll change the text. I'm going to use the FileWave colors here. We're going to add a logo here for FileWave, right? And I'm going to change the color of the text in this window so that it matches our kind of FileWave red color. And through these examples, hopefully you get an idea of the types of customizations that you might want to make. So anything that I want to change, I can actually do it right in the CSS on the website while I'm in the same view. I don't have to do anything in my CSS file or anything. I can experiment here before I actually go put it in my CSS file. So what I'm going to do, let's say I'm going to change the color of this category. So I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to choose to inspect that element. And that gives me a view here of the HTML at the top, and I can see my styles here when I'm looking at elements. Now, over here on the right, this gives me the effective stylings, right? So I don't have to read through all of the CSS to pick up things. I can just look here and see the effective settings. So when I look at color here, you can see the color blue that's specified. Right? So I can click on that, and that's going to show me over here in the CSS specifically the setting. I can come in and just directly edit that while I'm in the same instance of the website or this particular web page. And you notice that as soon as I change that, that's changed the color here, and it's changed the color of my text. Right? So what that tells me is I want to make a change for this section. Right? I can just steal that whole bit. I can copy that and throw that right in my style_custom.css file. Right? So this is my custom thing. Now you don't have to comment in here, but a /* and ending with a * is a comment. I can say this sets category and icon color. Right? And I can just paste in that attribute. Right? So that specifies that color that I wanted. And what's nice about that is I can make the change in the website. I can see that it did what I wanted to before I go and put it in this style sheet. Actually, I see I've got this actually in the wrong document. So let me go ahead and copy that, and we'll put it in that right document, which is the one that I had sitting there on my desktop in this kiosk styling style _custom.css. We're going to throw it in there instead, so I put it in the right place, right? So anyway, that just adds a comment there to tell us what that is. It's not required, but it's nice when you go back to it later, you know what changes meant what in your CSS, right? So that's one change. I'd like to change that. What else might I want to change? So let's take a look. Well, maybe I also want to change. You see that change not only impacted the menu here with the little hamburger there, but also the icons in the menu bar at the bottom. So notice I can move around in here, but if I were to reload the page, that's going to lose this change because it's not going to use this local copy of the edit that I've made, right? So the other thing I might want to do is maybe I want to change the color of this text to match the others. So if I inspect that element, I can see that that is this span, and when I look at the effective CSS settings here, I can look at color and see that that color comes from this section, view color or view title, and then I can set the color here, which again for us is CE 1300. Right? So of course you'd want to play with the colors. In Chrome, you can click on the color icon and just pick any particular color and transparency, etc. Again, all I have to do is take that section then, right, which is the section up to or from the dot through the closing bracket, or brace, I guess it is. We're going to copy that and throw that in our CSS2, and this one will be change title color. Right, so we can throw that in. Okay. Now, if we want to include our logo, we have to include that, but that's not something we can style as it is because we don't have the logo actually showing there. So we need to add something new, and there's no way to get around that. We just need to steal that, but that is here, right? And I'll post this along with the article that Bao's working on for this content. We'll have this text for you so you can just copy and paste it, but this you just need to throw in there that tells it in the apps, books, profiles, and info locations that we're going to use a background image, and that URL is a relative path to logo.png. So we're going to steal that as it is and throw that in our file as well. Okay. Now the thing is with this though, this is going to show the logo, but it's going to show it in the top left corner, right? So I want to move my menu over to the right hand side. So if we go back to the site, we can see here that this menu, the hamburger here, you can see bun, and the hamburger in the middle there. I want to move that over to the right hand side. Now if I inspect that, right, I can see that this div here has got a class called KMLeftItem. Okay. Now, I don't want to go too deep into this, but I could just change it, right? I could come in here and set this to be km-write item, that would do what I wanted to. But since we can't edit the HTML directly, and we're using just CSS for this, I can't make that change that way. But that's how I want this to look. So I want to move that over. Well, how can I do that? Well, I can basically replicate the... Let's reload that so we go back to default here. So this is back over here. If I want to make that change, I'm going to go ahead and inspect that again. Make sure I'm on the right element. So notice as I mouse over things here, on the left-hand side, you see how it's highlighting different bits? It's really this whole div that I need, right? So that div, if I look at the left properties here, I can see that it is getting this left 0.5 EM and right is auto. We just need to reverse those two things. So I'm going to steal that, right? And we're going to set right to that value. And we're going to set left to be auto. And when we do that, you see our menu item has moved over here. So although it's now a little oddly named in that it's KM left item, it is actually set correctly and moved over to the right-hand side. So we will steal that as well for our CSS. I'm going to copy that and throw that in as well. Okay, so that kind of gives us, let's comment that, and move menu to the right. Okay, so each of those now is identified. Of course, I could do more in here. I could change the color of the text, although I think this is a little bit overkill. But if I were to, say, inspect these elements, right, I can see that this whole table, right, that I could change, say, the color here as well if I wanted to, right, to be the same red. I think it's a little overkill, so I won't actually include it, but you can get the idea here that I could do C1300 there as well and set that red color in there too. I think it's a little overkill, a little too much red. It's up to you how you want to do, but we can also do other things like the background color, etc. So let's go ahead and make just one more change in here before I show you how those things can come into play in general. I've gone ahead and refreshed this again to get back to what the original look is. Maybe I want to change the background of this header here. So if I inspect that, I see that there's this div, right, and this div above it. I need to be on the right thing that's actually specifying the color. You can see here that this is background color that's actually being specified, and it's a little bit up from the div that I right-clicked on there. So this div is just a section on the website. If I go to that background color, I can make a change to that too, right? So if I click on that, it shows me that section, right? And I can set this is in RGBA. When you click this, this is basically the color. This is not a hex value, but this last is the opacity of the color that's chosen. So if we edit that one, we can kind of change this a little bit. We could make it stronger, say, to show more, and maybe we'll do a darker color, and you can see we've specified this gray then, right? So not rocket science. Once we've changed that, we just take that same thing again. And although I have trouble highlighting these, we'll go through and highlight that section of the CSS here as well. There we go. I'm going to copy that and throw that in my CSS too. So we'll just say that this darkens title background or something like that, right? So that we know what it is later when we look at it. And we'll paste that in. So we've got all our changes in the CSS. How do we now actually implement this, on our production server? So I'm going to go ahead and save this, make sure I've got this document saved. And then basically we just need to take the two documents that we've got here in our folder, this CSS file, which now has a little bit of size to it, and this logo file, and we need to copy them up to our FileWave server. Now I happen to be on a Mac here, and I need to copy the files up to my Linux server. So I'm going to use SCP to do that from my terminal. Now, I happen to have already done that before, so I didn't typo this as we went through this demonstration. But really, SCP isn't very hard. I'm saying SCP, what am I copying? I'm copying the local style _ custom CSS. Where am I copying it to? Well, I'm using the root user at this remote location, and particularly in that custom folder that we created earlier. So I hit enter for that. It's going to prompt me for credentials. And if I don't fat finger that, it copies that file up for me. Then I just need to do the same thing with the logo. Okay, so let me back up here and change the source file to my logo file. Oops, that's why that didn't tab for me. I need to take the style part off there. Logo.png, and then of course the destination file name I need to change as well to logo.png. Again, give it the password if you haven't set up a host key for that. It copies that up for me, and then if I go over to my server and take a look at that, if I do a directory in that folder, you see I've got my logo.png in that location and my style_custom.css both there. So with any luck, if I've done that right, when I go back to my browser and I refresh this page, hey, look at that. Right? I've got my background color set here. I've got the color set for my title, separate from the color set here for categories. The menu is over on the right hand side, and my logo is in place now. So hopefully you'll see through this, it's not too terribly difficult to go through and make some style customization in here. And worst case, you can't really do any damage as long as you put the files in the right place, because worst case, if you totally screw it up, all you have to do is delete the files and it'll go back to normal. So let me show you that real quick. So if I go back to my server and I do a directory here of those files and I just remove star in here, right? And I say yes to both of those, right? Those are both now gone, and if I refresh this page, you'll see that without my custom CSS in there, I now no longer have those customizations. So that's all it takes is putting those files there, and if you goof up, you can take them away. So hopefully that's been helpful in giving you an idea of how you can customize the FileWave kiosk in FileWave version 12.2. Thank you for joining us today to take a look at styling the FileWave kiosk.